Aloha, everyone. Look at all your spiritual friends. Allow them to look at you.
Chloe's having a good time over there.
We hope everyone is well today, Easter Sunday, I believe. Kay, thanks again for your help these past weeks. It's a delight. A windy day on Oahu, and you might hear it sometimes during the meditation. But with the wind element in mind, it's the predominant element we notice when we follow movement, bodily movement, the breath, along with earth element. But wind is usually primary as oscillation, movement, vibration. Obvious and also very subtle movements. Within the body, within the breath, even within a single spot sensation. We feel the vibration, movement of that sensation very quickly. It's usually disappearing as we notice it. It's usually the vanishing that we notice, the trail or the tail of the comment that's left from that momentary sensation. And so those are the two things our awareness attends to. The, the unique nature of an experience, an emotion, a sensation, a sight, a sound, how it hovers in the moment, unlike any previous moment or any moment to come, and then disappears into nothingness. That uniqueness, moment to moment, can engage our interest and refined our attention. And along with unique nature is universal nature, and that is its nature to disappear, to be impermanent, to be not lasting, unreliable, uncontrollable, without a self-center, without an agency. Those three are just different facets of one nature, that is impermanence, the dukkha nature, unreliability or dissatisfaction of phenomena of experience, and its uncontrollability, our selflessness. Just three doorways to the same experience. However, that moment is known in our awareness, or in our wisdom, our understanding. So connecting now with however the wind element is manifesting as body sensation, or as movement of the breath, expansion, contraction, rising, falling, pressure and release. And if we're using the whole body as an anchor, feeling it with a momentary global awareness, it can be helpful to alternate bodily awareness with a touch point, like our hands touching, a little area in the palm of the hand the size of a coin, or the thumbs touching. Sit bone, anything can be that momentary touchstone. And it just allows for a continuity of mindfulness, so it's this natural wave of awareness rather than broken up and feeling like it has to move around and search for an object. We just become familiar with the global awareness and the fixed point awareness, the touchstone. Likewise with the rising, falling, or expansion, contraction of the abdomen, observing the breath, we can go to the sit bone or hands touching in between out breath and in breath when there is the longest space in our breathing process. It's useful just to know we have these tools, and that we may begin with them, and then often by nature, guided by our own innate intuitive wisdom, awareness takes on other avenues of attention, using the sense doors, sound, sight, whether our eyes are open or not, visual experience continues. Observing mental, emotional phenomena as it arises. We can choose to observe. It's not something to look for, something extra after we've done the breath or the body as home anchors. We can stay with the mental processes as long as there's interest, awareness, understanding, and observe those little thought moments like raindrops on water, touching the body of consciousness and disappearing. The emotions that arise, some fleeting, some lingering. Often they may be connected with a narrative, a story, something going on in our lives. Then it's useful to discern the moments of the emotion or mental state separately from the story attached to it, our thoughts about it. And notice how our thoughts about experience, or thoughts about an emotion or mental state, or a sensation, breath, or anything, actually obscure the direct awareness and experience of it. So then it's useful to turn awareness on the thoughts themselves. So there is a direct relationship and direct experience between awareness and those thoughts until they fade away and they're not coloring our perception, our direct perception of experience. Be they emotion, thought, underlying thought patterns, which are useful to see and not be attached to or aversive to. And any bodily sensations connected to the emotion or strong mental states. And so here it's more a free flow, natural mind process. Just letting go into that without identifying, without attachment, without control. And anytime we're a little lost or uncertain, we know the way back to a home anchor, our body, a touch point, the breath. It's always there. Turning awareness on itself at times clarifies what a mindful moment is, separate from our thoughts about awareness. Awareness of awareness is without identification, without attachment. And we just see how mindfulness moves into degrees of understanding, taking interest in the body, investigating experience, and how that lifts various other skillful, associative, positive, and related states to mindfulness that accompany it, both on the energy level and tranquility level. And we can just all observe this in a very short period of time, simply from being with present time experience, the body, the breath, emotional stream, thought stream, sounds, visual, dancing elements. On occasion, it's helpful to notice the calm that comes about from sequential moments of awareness of anything. Sensation, sound, thoughts, visual images. Moments of observing without interfering or identification bring an immediate calming of physical and mental formations. So just see how this is true for you or not. Self-discovery.
Last time we discussed a bit about the factors that turn away, that thwart the cultivation of beautiful states, these nivarana, the word meaning turn away that gets translated as hindrance, are the qualities that turn us away, that thwart our attempts to cultivate beautiful qualities of mind and heart. And Stephen discussed in some detail these qualities of the mind: grasping after sense pleasures, of aversion and hatred, wanting, not wanting, and then varieties of delusion, the quality of restlessness and worry, and sloth and torpor, and finally this quality of indecision and doubt, not being able to come to a settled, clear, to a place of clarity. In the discourse on mindfulness, these qualities, the hindrances as they're called, are treated in just the same way as the qualities of awakening, the factors of awakening. So we bring the same kind of attention to the sleepiness or nodding off that I was feeling tonight. It's the same quality of attention we bring to that as that we bring to a quiet, concentrated mind, or a joyous, energetic, precise attention. In fact, this quality of bringing the same kind of attention to grasping, aversion, restlessness and worry, sloth and torpor, indecision and doubt, bringing that very same showing up to notice also the texture of precision, of courage, of joy in the mind, or calm, collected evenness. That quality of showing up in the very same way is itself an aspect of equanimity. We just show up for whatever is arising. In fact, as the practice is gaining momentum, it's not so much that we're showing up for it as that these experiences are calling out. Any experience whatsoever, just in its arising, is making itself known. And this is the place that I love the way Stephen speaks of as doing nothing with full commitment. One way to think of what's going on here is that the factors of awakening, when we're really doing nothing with full commitment, an experience is just making itself known. Heat in the body, cool in the body, hard, soft, pressure, joy, anguish, nodding off, or energy. These qualities of phenomena experience are just making themselves known, nothing to do. One way to think about that is that the factors of awakening at those times are just coming into balance. They're balancing each other. They're doing the practice. It's not that we're doing meditation, but rather these qualities of awakening are precise, energetic, joyous aspects of the mind, and the calm, collected, even aspects of the mind. They're doing the practice. They're balancing each other. That's why there's nothing to do. But for all of us, certainly for me, it's just not like that all the time. Tonight, mostly it's a little tired here. Mostly sleepiness arising. I'm trying to connect with it and it's going off. Trying to connect with it and it's going, the attention is going off. So for all of us, much of the time, we need a way to get there. We need on-ramps to get on that highway, a way to into that groove where the practice is doing itself, where the factors of awakening are balancing each other. There's nothing to do. And this is the role of the tools that we've inherited in this tradition, the tools of different anchors. So one place to rest the attention is with the rise and fall at the abdomen, or with the flow of sensations, physical sensations in the body in the sitting posture, or with the field of sound vibration. And with any of these anchors, what we're looking for is that by resting the attention in this way, it brings the energizing factors and the calming factors into balance. It brings into balance the precise, energetic, joyous qualities of mind. Balanced with the tranquil, collected, unified, even qualities of mind, so that the practice can start to do itself more fully. What we're doing, our role is just to create the on-ramp, to invite in these factors of awakening so that they can meet experience as it rises. It's not that we're doing the practice. Certainly not that we're finding these qualities that Stephen was speaking of, so much as creating the conditions for experience to show the qualities it already had. It's already falling away. Joy is already falling away. The sound of my voice is already falling away. Anguish is already falling away. What we're doing is inviting in the qualities that allow it to show us. Inviting in the precision of mind, inviting in the courageous energy, inviting in the joyous interest, inviting in the calm, the collectedness, the evenness of showing up that allows experience to show us it's falling away, undependable, out of control nature. It's already doing that. We don't need to make that happen. And any kind of trying to make that happen, trying to see that insight of falling away will have a subtle flavor of manipulation. It's not doing nothing. It's okay. We work our way in there. But the purest kind of practice is when the practice is just doing itself. So we're creating the conditions for that to happen. So these factors of awakening come sevenfold. There's three energizing qualities and three calming qualities. The energizing ones begin with precision, precise investigation, Dhamma Vichaya, Sambojjhanga. Bodhi is awakening. Sambojjhanga is the quality of awakening, the factor of awakening. Your Dhamma Vichaya is investigation of phenomena. It's this precision that knows, oh, it's heat, oh, it's cold, oh, it's pleasant, oh, it's unpleasant. It's joy, it's anguish. It feels like this. This moment of anguish feels like this. This moment of sleepiness feels like this. Subtle, intense, pleasant, unpleasant, prickly, smooth. Knowing that is the precision, precise investigation of phenomena. Next in the energizing factors is this virya, from a root meaning hero. It's courageous energy that keeps us coming back. A few weeks ago, spoke about remembering our teacher Upandita's emphasis on launching energy and sustaining energy, and then the kind of energy that carries us towards the goal. This is virya. And the final energizing one is piti, this uplifting quality. Sometimes this will arise when we have a moment of really precise awareness. It could be noticing an experience arise, noticing an experience fall away, noticing a distinction between bubbly joy and the quieter pleasure of contentment. We get interested. Could be noticing the flow of sensations in the rising process at the abdomen. We get really joyously into check it out. That's piti sambojjhanga. Together, these qualities of precision and courageous energy and joyous, we might think of them as together giving our practice this quality of joyous interest and curiosity and knowing. It's uplifting. And we can get too much energy. They're beautiful, but they also need the balance of calm, collected evenness. Passaddhi is the quality of tranquility. Passaddhi sambojjhanga is the awakening factor of tranquility. Settling the practice, relaxation. Sometimes it's helpful to call in just the right individual factor. Sometimes it's joy, sometimes it's precision, but other times it's just relaxing. A lot of times for me, it's been just relaxing. I really learned to do this in facing intense physical pain, just to call in a moment of tranquility. Just remember what that feels like in the mind and body, and incline the mind towards rest and relaxation. Not that the rest of the sitting, it was then relaxed, but just for in that next moment, there was enough to face, enough to show up with the tensing of the pain and call in relaxation. And I could show up for that moment of intense pain in the body. And then I would get tighter, and I'm watching myself get tighter. Relaxation, tranquility. Now I can show up for one moment of pain in the body and tighten back up. I really learned, I learned the power of being able to call in a particular quality in the moment that it's needed. And sometimes it can be like playing a chord. This wake factor awakening and this factor awakening. As we train that ability to call up particular qualities of heart, remembering what that feels like in the mind and body, inclining towards tranquility or joy or precision or courage or equanimity, we can start to play just the chord that's needed in that moment to bring in enough energy and enough calm to show up for the next moment of experience. So tranquility, and then collected concentration, samadhi sambojjhanga, awakening factor of samadhi, of concentration, unification of mind. A third of the calming factors is equanimity, evenness. In the context of mindfulness practice, I think of this just as the ability to show up for whatever experience is arising, pleasant, unpleasant, what we wanted, what we didn't want, what we think of meditation, what we think doesn't count as meditation, whatever is arising. That's equanimity in mindfulness practice, showing up. The seventh factor of awakening balances these two. So there's the three energizing factors: precision, courage, joy; three calming factors: tranquility, collectedness, evenness. And then the seventh is just mindfulness itself, the coming back again and again. So what's interesting in the discourse on mindfulness in this section on Dhammanupassana, on awareness of general phenomena, is that the instruction for watching the hindrances, sense, grasping after sense pleasure, aversion or hatred, restlessness and worry, sloth and torpor, doubt, and the instruction for being mindful of these awakening factors starts out in just the same way. We notice when there is lust in the mind, we notice when there isn't lust in the mind. We notice when there is precise investigation in the mind, we notice when there isn't precise investigation in the mind. That quality is mindfulness, just noticing what's happening. But simply by noticing, we cultivate the beautiful ones and release the hindrances. Because the quality of sensual desire requires that attention is resting on the idea, the object of our desire. The more we pull attention away from the idea of the object of desire and we're watching the desire itself, the more the energy isn't there to grasp. It's just watching present moment experience falling away. In this case, the experience of sensual desire. If we keep directing attention to the idea of this thing we want, we're cultivating the desire. If we direct the attention instead to the experience of desire itself, what's the texture of wanting right now, we're taking the fuel away from that fire of desire. On the flip side, with a factor of awakening like precision or courage or joy or calm, collected evenness, the more we're paying attention to that experience, the more we're cultivating the factor of awakening. So just by noticing the quality of precision or noticing the quality of equanimity, we're cultivating more of that. Because in the mindfulness of precision, we're noticing what precision feels like in the mind and body. We're doing it precisely. In noticing the quality of equanimity in the mind, the even grounded feeling of showing up for whatever experience is happening, we're noticing that thread, that theme in our experience right now. We're already cultivating a little bit more of that upekkha sambojjhanga, that equanimity factor of awakening, just by showing up for whatever present experience is arising. In this case, showing up for equanimity itself. So there's a kind of a magic to the simple quality of mindfulness in that without manipulating experience in any way, it just naturally is cultivating the awakening factors and releasing the hindrances. So that's what I was thinking to say. I didn't, I didn't have so many personal stories, so maybe when you ask questions, I'll come up with them. But that's what I had in mind to say, and hopefully I can prompt at least some questions that we can help with. Thank you. Are there any questions on the talk or on your practice, Stephen's instructions, anything that we can be of service with this evening, afternoon, morning, night, day? So perfectly clear. Linda, please.
I don't really have a question, Jay, but I want to thank you for such a clear, concise presentation of the 7,000 of awareness. It was just so clear to me and understandable and simple,
Good. Oh,
really.
good.
Yeah. So I just wanted to tell you how much I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. I find that formulation of the factors of awakening just so helpful.
Huh.
So simple and clear, like you say, and so experiential. And
Yeah.
so wonderful to see them manifest in my practice when they do. Just really helpful to be able to identify them and sometimes call individual ones in. And sometimes like it can be fun, like, oh, I know I'm lagging. I know I need more energy, but is it like more precision I need, or is it more energy I need, or is it just more joy? Maybe sometimes I just need more joy. It's fun to be precise like that.
And you know what else it did for me? Helped me remember from the last retreat, the 6-day retreat that we did. I forget what month, November. Just helping me remember sometimes, and I didn't recognize it then, that, oh, that time my mind wasn't autonomous, or
Mm.
that time I wasn't precise. I was drifting away from being precise. And it's interesting because I can actually remember times in that last retreat that as you spoke, I remembered. So that was really actually very useful.
Lovely. Yeah, I find the same thing. I really, really appreciate the way the Buddha put that one.
Yeah.
Steve, any additions?
I was I was actually wondering, in your own personal experience, when you've seen them work, when you've called one up at a time where ex- experience was challenging.
Mm. Well, I mentioned the one where at a time in my practice when I really had a lot of physical pain. That was the first time I remember really using it as a practice to call up an individual factor of awakening, in this case, relaxation, tranquility. It was the only way for me through was to, I was so tight. I mean, I don't think I told the story quite fully enough, but I was just so tight. The whole body was tight, the whole mind was tight, everything was aversive. And the only way I could show up even for another moment of that was to call in a bit of relaxation, a bit of tranquility. And I started to do that and just remember what that was like in the mind and body. And it wasn't that it solved it for the rest of the sitting for me. It was just that it was enough tranquility, enough relaxation to be there for one moment of the pain in the body. And then the next moment I would have to do the same thing. Okay, relaxation, show up again. So I really remember that very vividly. But now, I do it all the time. Not always successfully, but I really, I find it a lot of fun to, I was just talking about like playing around a bit at like, do I need more joy? Is that what would pick it up? Or is it actually like, I'm actually needing more precision. The mind is just, there's enough energy, but it's not quite connecting in a precise way. Or, there can be a difference between relaxation, tranquility, calling in that ease of being, and the groundedness of equanimity that's just showing up for whatever's happening, showing up for pain as well as pleasure, showing up. Today, I got praised for something. I sent in a little article about somebody's book. I liked the book. I had something to point out that they might do better. And I got praised for the thing I wrote. And so all day after I got in the morning, after I got on the email, got that praise, I'm noticing it in my body. My mind would go off and think about the content and, check it out. So today I was calling in some equanimity, just enough equanimity to show up for that feeling in the body. But it was really kind of a joyous exploration once I could, in the moments when I was able to call on that enough equanimity to be with that kind of bubbliness. I definitely didn't need more joy. That was like not the right end. I needed to bring it down, but in a grounded way. Just show up for that pleasant feeling of joy in the body so that I could keep showing up for it. Does that speak to it, Steve?
That
Were you
speaks to
asking?
it.
Were you asking me or Linda, actually?
I was asking you.
Okay, good. Good thing I answered that.
Because you had said something at the end
Yeah,
of your
yeah.
little Dhamma talk about not having shared experience, but I know you have lots of experience to share. So I was just
Thank you.
prodding you.
Inviting me.
Yes.
Thank you, my friend.
I remember early on in Burma at the Mahasi Center, my energy being low because of the quality of the food, especially during the rainy season. Food quality was low. It was easy to get sick, and it was just initially difficult being a monk in a strict monastic compound where you wake up at 3 and you practice till 11, basically. Last sitting's at 10. And but I started listening to U Pandita's talks on virya, on energy, carefully, and he was very detailed. His his Burmese was a very sophisticated language, the way he commanded it and used it. And the translator at the time was quite phenomenal. A Malaysian monk who, learned languages similar to Jake very quickly. So he mastered Burmese like in 6 months. And so he accurately transmitted what the sophisticated way U Pandita was teaching. So I began to pick up the details and be interested in energy. So interested that over a number of weeks, I cultivated energy to a degree where I was really addicted to it. And I did really foolish things like make vows to sit for hours and hours at a time, or I took very precise, not just practice notes, but timing. I wanted to know what I was doing with almost every second of 24 hours to see how much I wasn't mindful, Like I'd sleep for 4 hours, and so 20 hours it was practicing, whether it was formal or not, whether I was sitting, standing, walking, washing robes, eating. I felt responsible for all that, and I'd write things down. And I just would see how much I didn't know what was happening. And so I just kept doing that until there was an overload of virya. It's so much energy that, U Pandita began to catch on and ask me, well, why was I taking these resolves to rest sitting up instead of lying down to sleep? Even if it was, for only 4 hours, I took a vow not to lie down, because I heard these other monks of the past, great monks of the past, were doing that. So I was just trying to go beyond my limits. And I got really wired up, and it affected my eating. U Panditas made me promise not to eat mindfully. So I would eat more and ground myself, and indicated, he never kind of said what to do, but indicated that maybe I didn't need to make these adhitthans, these determinations, these vows, like to sit up. I could just, as Jake was saying, I could balance the practice and let the practice carry, because he often spoke how the practice does itself and carries us along. And we start to feel the practice, or the current of the practice of the Dhamma, pick us up. And then we just let go and let it take us along. So it took me a long time to learn that, and often had to relearn it with other retreats with U Pandita, either in Burma or when he was traveling here in the West. I'd kind of go through the same thing, and he'd speak of these things in details, and I'd get kind of excited and be too much energy. So I often erred on the side of not enough calm, tranquility, as Jake was talking about, and too much interest and precision and energy and so forth. It took time to feel that, and the physicality of it helped a lot, to feel in the body, there was a kind of agitation when there was too much energy or too much ecstatic type of joy, rather than the intention of joy, which is just to peak that precision, investigation, energy, evolution, and joyous interest, to the point where then it easily balances with calm and concentration, equanimity. Otherwise, we kind of are going for the bliss, kind of attached to the ecstatic aspects of practice. And that's what I learned from, again and again, working with energy. Now I wish I had it these days, I miss it. So it's a memory I'm talking about. I don't have that problem these days.
You can make resolves to lie down and go to sleep.
I do. That's a standard practice. Lie down on my yoga mat and be mindful, or do Brahma Viharas as long as I can when I go to bed. Um, yeah, I do that, but there's no energy much of the time these days. When we have retreats and we sit along with you, it's really helpful. I can find that energy that kind of starts to lag with aging and household life. But making our home our temple, as we did with some of our longer retreats together here, I could I could find that. It wasn't like in the youthful days of my practice, but it was enough. Practicing together, I get energy, and practicing with all of you, I'm feeling the sangha support. I get energy, and taking delight in the interviews and understanding your um, how your understanding is evolving, how your insight is progressing. That gives me energy and joy too. So I often say at the end of a retreat, thank you for being my teachers, because you are my teachers now. We really can't practice without each other if we look at it.
Is that a hand, Quinn? Let's see, can I? Yeah, there we go. Oh, I asked you. Didn't I? Try again. No, I can't hear. There you
Okay.
go. Okay.
So you talk about precision, Jake. Is that the quality of investigation? Somehow I get kind of confused that with like having a joyful interest. It seems like the two are so entwined.
It's a good question. I'll give you my take. Who knows if my take is the right take, but here's a take that is mine. The quality that's being translated, first off, is Dhamma Vicaya. So Dhamma we'll just think of as phenomena, as experience. So Vicaya could certainly be investigation. That's perfectly adequate translation. And you were comparing it with this quality of piti sambojjhanga. So on the one hand, we have Dhamma Vicaya, and we have piti, and then in the middle there, virya. So these three are all energizing qualities. One is, I think of as precision in the knowing of phenomena. Piti is an uplifting, joyous feeling. So this, speaking about joyous interest, joyful interest, in a way for me actually captures all of the the three energizing factors of awakening in one way of describing. Joyful interest is you've got energy, you've got precision, you've got this upliftingness. So when I think of joyful interest, I actually think we're talking about all three of the energizing factors of awakening together.
Right.
And then if we want to break them down, we can talk about, oh, precise knowing of phenomena, where what we're talking about, oh, it knows heat, it knows cold, it knows pleasant, it knows unpleasant, it knows intense, it knows subtle. That's the precision.
Right, right.
And the uplifting quality, that's piti. But when you see something with precision, sometimes that's uplifting. And there's courageous energy. So together, I think of those as joyful interest. All three of the energizing factors of awakening. That is Jake's take, but who knows if Jake's take is right.
Yeah, it seems to me that it's like a whole package.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you speak of joyful interest, yes, and the energizing factors are a whole package, but all the factors of awakening are a package. And it's also true that sometimes they get out of balance. So we need to call one in or the other in.
Right.
And sometimes the energizing factors are high and the calming are lower. Sometimes my personal experience is that it can really be a different thing to call in precision versus calling in the uplifting quality. And sometimes one of those is what's needed, and it can be really fun to play around. Oh, what I needed was equanimity rather than just calm, or what I needed was the calm. In that moment of pain, what I needed was calm. But sometimes what we need is just the groundedness of equanimity to show up for pleasure or pain. So I found it really helpful to also break them down, even as you also think of all the factors of awakening as a package. What you're wanting for them is to just, in an organic way, be playing with balancing each other and doing the practice.
Right, right.
And I think you're right. When you speak of joyful interest, that is speaking of this whole package of the three energizing factors of awakening. That's how I
Thank you.
take it.
In the instructions, I was talking about noticing what Sayadaw U Pandita referred to as the unique and universal nature that we're observing. That's a definition for Dhamma Vicaya, which can be translated as also as wisdom. And Vipassana wisdom is the intuitive insight that where awareness connects with unique natures, this sensation, this emotion, that mental state, this sound, this visual experience, and its underlying universal nature of anicca, dukkha, anatta, continuous, ephemeral, streaming change. And because of that, its unreliability or dukkha nature, and the lack of any agency, controlling agency. It's anatta nature, egoless nature, selfless nature. Those two, the unique and universal, are compounded together are wisdom practice. So you can see it that way as well, if we were just to break that part down. Yeah. And then U Pandita would say, because of seeing things clearly or precisely, is a condition for energy to arise.
Yeah.
And then the energy that arises sustains continuity of mindfulness, and that grows the joyous interest in phenomena as they are, unique and universal natures. So we can see a progression like that. But it's not just linear, it's also immediate and circular, like a necklace of jewels, these 7 factors. Because a moment of pure mindfulness, all 7 are up. And they're all like 7 different streams simultaneously carrying the heart, the mind, to the ocean of awakening. we're very fortunate to have these jewels already here. And when we practice, they begin to shine. Angela.
Angela.
Hi. I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about, or give instruction on what you mean by calling them up. Is it, just, I sometimes feel when I hear calling them up that it could be how to do it without forcing it or feeling like you're manipulating something. I mean, even when I was just sitting here and you were talking about joyful interest, even just thinking about that word, it actually started to feel a little joyful. Or so is even just remembering a time when that factor was there, or visualize or thinking of the word, is that part of it?
Clearly, you're telling us how to do it. You're asking or you're giving the instruction. Steve, do you want to start?
It's a really great and important question, because, part of the instruction and teaching is to let go of control and manipulation and forcing and efforting and so forth. And yet at times you hear us, or the Buddha's words, give an instruction such as, reflect on these and call them up, and a purpose of virya, or energy, is to call up and sustain skillful states, and to abandon and keep at bay unskillful states. So there's a certain amount of influence that intention can have. And so we use conceptuality in skillful ways in practice. We don't throw it out entirely. We don't demonize it or, say not to use thoughts in any way. It's very useful in our training, in our practice. And so ultimately, I would say that the most skillful form to use in answering your question, calling up one of the skillful states, is the way U Pandita spoke about an example of equanimity in action. And that is to call up all the energy we have at the time, not too much, not too little, but just that skillful virya, heroic energy of the heroine or courageous person, and then act. And in this case, the action is calling up this whatever skillful state, energy, interest, calm, concentration, equanimity. So we act, we call up the energy for it, and we act, and then let go any expectation, any attachment to result. That's the magic, that's the key that makes equanimity, that it's not coming from a sense of self. It's a completely selfless act or process. So we're using the tools of what we learn from what we read or what we hear of the Dhamma, and we understand a need at a certain time for energy when we don't have it, for interest or joy when we don't have it, or precision when we don't have it. So we do call it up, use our conceptual concept in a skillful way, energetically to call it up, but have no expectation whatsoever that it's going to arise, or attachment in any way, to our calling it up. There's no identification. There's not a sense, I'm doing this. We're just using tools skillfully. which is a teaching of our life, to call up our energy and to act every day in our lives and in our conversations or in our projects or whatever we do, and let go attachment to result, let go attachment, let go expectation. And then we just repeat that if the outcome isn't desirable. So our work, if it's welfare work, we do it again and again because we can't save the forests and the rivers and the people and the children. We can't just do it on will. It's a practice. And if we take that up in our life, that's what we learn, that we just do it again and again. And let go attachment is the most effective. If we're attached, we burn out, we get tired. We stop doing that good work. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. That helps on a lot of different levels. And
It is on a lot of different levels, exactly.
I really liked that I'm using conceptuality in a very skillful way.
Right.
That was really helpful. All of it was helpful, but thank you.
Good. Good question. Thank you. Add to that, Jake?
I was just gonna echo that it felt to me like you really know where you've gone. You took down your hand, you moved across my screen. It sounded like you really had it right there at the beginning. Just as you start to think about the word joy, sometimes it comes up. As you start to remember a time you felt that way, or with equanimity, or with calm, or even with precision, like a precise awareness, a precise investigation. Like just thinking about that already calls that quality in. So that's to answer the how question. Like I think you are already answering that to some degree. And there's this deep question that Stephen was speaking about too, about holding this aspiration for non-manipulation, for the practice doing itself, along with helping ourselves into that space, inviting those qualities in these skillful ways that he was speaking of.
Thank you, Angela. Richard, you're up. You're on board.
Hi,
And we can hear you. Thank you.
this is in reference to your mention of the unique and universal aspects of experience. For years, when I did open awareness, I would focus on each experience as it arose, each sense experience, and I would almost get seasick because I'd be dragged away to the next experience, and I was very disoriented, going from one thing to another thing to another thing. I mean, it was almost like scary when I was losing my mind. And tonight, I had a much lighter touch, and I was just, instead of like drilling into the experience, just sort of seeing that it was there, almost instantaneously, something else came up. So you could say that I saw the impermanence, right? You could say that I saw flow.
Yes.
But it seems like I'm also missing the detail now. It seems like there must be some place in the middle where I could like note a little bit more clearly what's coming up and still let go.
After practicing as long as you've had, and you're right, when we first start training, we might try to follow every point of experience, this sensation, that thought, this sound, that sight, and so forth. It's tiring, and it's disorienting, as you say, and then at a certain point in practice, the objects seem to take the background, and nature, or universality, the universality of change, impermanence, and so forth, it takes the forefront. And then there's just a relaxation. rather than any sense at all of manipulation or attending to this and attending to that. That is the wisdom to connect with and in fact merge with the flow of things with awareness. Not from a standpoint of I'm aware, this is my experience, or that's happening out there. It all kind of converges when the precision and the energizing and the calming, tranquilizing forces come together. In that convergence, it's just wisdom. The wisdom of impermanence, the wisdom of selflessness, and so forth. So that's fine. There's no in between that you have to search for. Ideally, in the way that I intended the instruction, was that it can happen simultaneously. We're connecting with unique natures at times because all of a sudden a strong sensation arises, a strong emotion or mental state arises. But simultaneously, we're seeing it disappear, we're seeing it vanish, we're seeing it go away. So the unique and universal happen simultaneously. That's not exhausting.
So just keep on doing it.
Just keep on doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jake, anything to add?
What's coming to mind for me is this instruction in the Satipatthana Sutta. It goes through all this detail, breath, long, short, all the detail with the body and all the detail with the mind, a mind that's lustful, a mind that's not lustful, and so on. But with each of these areas, there's also this instruction, I mentioned it a few weeks ago too, also this instruction, or she knows there is a body, just enough for mindfulness and clear awareness. Or he knows there is a mind, just enough for mindfulness and clear awareness. So there's a precision there, but it's not necessarily a precision about which mental state is going on, but there's a precision in knowing right now that mentality is happening. So I don't know quite how to put my point well into words, but I think there is a way, an aspect of precision that doesn't need a lot of detail, doesn't need a lot of the kind of thing that was making you seasick, which I've done too. But there's a kind of precision that's just touching enough to the texture of the experience right now that it can show us its falling away nature. How does that land?
Sounds good.
So between now and next week, just as a day-to-day awareness practice, you might find it interesting just to, in the same way that Jake just said, gave that the simplicity of teaching, or there is this body, or there is this mind, just capturing that we can do with the hindrances. Oh, such and such a hindrance either precisely the attachment, the aversion, the sleepiness, the anxiety, the doubt, or just recognizing a mental state that doesn't feel healthy. Oh, unhealthy mind state, unhealthy stream of thought. It can just stop right there. Don't have to kind of go into detail, though you might if experience offers that. But just as we go about our day, likewise with the 7 factors, we can be aware of that grouping of energizing at once. You don't have to know, was that because of precision? Is that because of the heroic energy? Or is that because of joyous interest? It can just be, oh, energizing or tranquilizing. Just as we go about our day, it's like everything we see can have a response that we're focused on that has an effect in our system, our body-mind system, that is uplifting or tranquilizing, energizing or tranquilizing, skillful or unskillful. Hindrances are their lack of hindrances. Play with them that way to kind of see how it goes, because we need every day. We need energy. We need calm. We need equanimity, and of course we need mindfulness. So having the intentionality, again, the skillful mindset of using our conceptual thought forms in that way. Oh, that's right. There is ability for calming the mind. There is ability for lifting the mind. There's the ability to see into this experience and discern whether it's helpful or unhelpful, healthy, unhealthy, skillful, unskillful, and so forth. That's your homework. Thank you for your practice.